beginning here. Give me 1 second, ladies and gents. And of course, I'm on airplane mode, so I can't pull it up. All right, so let's get this started here, guys. All as you know, housekeeping rules. Try not to multitask. Lock in here. Especially I guess sometimes I can get a little bit boring, but when I bring on the guest speakers, guys, these aren't just your typical guest speakers. These are people that not many people get the opportunity to hear from. These are some of the highest performers in the nation that I try and bring to you guys. So please lock in. Get your notepads ready. Remember how I train you guys to be on these calls, and anything that you do, try and find the money seed. Try and find the golden nugget that you're going to take from this call and then implement. What you are looking for in your mind, you will find, right? But if you're not paying attention, if you're in your emails, if you're on Facebook, if you're doing all these other things, you're going to miss what you paid for, and that's to get this value, to get things that can change your business, to get things that can change your life. So please be fully focused in this for the next hour and a half. And then any questions when we get to Q&A, try and hit me up privately in the chat. There's a thing that says 2, and then you can hit me up or just raise your hand. Ideally, I like to stick to one thing so I don't miss people that are raising their hand because they're here and it's back and forth. But outside of that, let me make the introduction to our next guest coach who we have the privilege to hear from today. A short story, guys. I share a lot about my business coach, David Meltzer. For those of you who don't know him, go on Instagram, go on Facebook, search him out. He's one of the top executive coaches in the country, if not the world. He's got an unbelievable entrepreneurial brand. The list goes on. This guy is just one of the unicorns of the world. So I said that because I'm always trying to bring the best guest speakers. I was like, Dave, listen, man, I need to bring more females to be guest speakers in here. And I said, who do you recommend? Right? And Dave knows a lot of these aren't top performers in your town. These aren't top performers in the state. These are like countrywide, globally top performers. Immediately, Leslie Zann was one of them. So I was like, all right, cool. Now we're on to something here. So then I got to connect with Leslie, her energy it was just everything that I expected. When Dave intros me to people, I meet them and I'm like, of course, I know why he introduced me to this person. Super high energy, unbelievable story. But also, it's not just, guys, I don't want to bring people on these calls just to talk about motivation, right? And I want to bring people that can obviously deliver energy, deliver inspiration, deliver motivation, but also deliver you tactical advice that you can go and change your business, change your life with. And this is exactly what she is. So let me just read a quick bio. And I shared this in there, but Leslie has overcome personal experience of loss, abuse, betrayal, and illness, and now inspires others to live with courage and claim the life that they desire, right? I'm sure everybody can relate to at some point, whether it's in your family or you, experiences of loss, illness, betrayal, all this stuff. And this can happen in your business too. She was awarded the National Speakers Association highest honors of certified speaking professionals and has presented live to more than 100,000 people around the world dedicated to achieving their full potential and living their best life, which you guys all know that this is what the Harvest is about. High performance living in your mind, body, and business, right? It's not just about business and making money. Leslie's latest book, Outrageous Achievement, a #1 international bestseller on Amazon, guides people to discover their courage and step past limiting beliefs and create exponential success in all areas of their lives. Wow, this is something that we all continue to grow in. With over 30 years in the sales profession, Leslie has a solid reputation of an expert trainer and motivator. So expert trainer, guys, in direct selling, in network marketing, and everything that you guys need, right? Because remember, we're all in sales. No matter what we do, everything has to conclude in a sale. She's an expert in that. And on top of that, when we talk about our health and we all give ourselves excuses of why we can't do this, why we can't commit to this, Leslie, at 61 years old, recently finished a 100-mile bike ride. So for this call, we're going to go over many things, but one thing that we're going to go over is core values. And we all know the importance of this, guys. The biggest companies in the world are built off of core values. Your family should be built off of core values. You as a person, your brand should be built off of core values. This is a very important topic. This can make your life a lot easier and make you perform and your business perform at a much higher level. And then she's also going to go over overcoming adversity. And as you guys all know, we're probably going to get a lot more from that. So Leslie, I hope that this introduction did you some justice there. I know we're going to get a lot more from you, but I'm very excited to have you pour in this community because you're the type of people that I want to be pouring into these individuals in this harvest community that I really care about and I want to perform at a higher level. And you're one of them that I want you to be in front of. So thank you, Leslie, and welcome.
Thank you, Devin. That was a lovely. I especially loved you mentioning my century ride. So yeah, we can talk about that because that's going to make a hell of a keynote because, and not that, hey, look at me, I rode 100 miles, but the lessons of the journey of riding 100 miles. But we can talk about that another time. So I am really pleased to be back with you. I too enjoyed our first conversation. And I'm happy to be a part of your community. And good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for making the time today.
Awesome. So Leslie, I do want to go into, I mean, your story is unbelievable, right? So, you know, and by the way, you had some, from what I remember there, you were in real estate. There's a lot of things that you can share. So I would like you to start off by just telling your story first. Then we can go into the adversity and the tactical things that you did to overcome adversity. And then we can go into kind of the core values and the direct selling lessons that you can teach them that you've mastered along the way. Okay,
super. So, you know, and I appreciate you saying my story is unbelievable, but I really believe my story is very, not unlike most people, right? Like we all have different times, different chapters in our life, different times when things are going really well and other times when things are not going as well as we would like them to go. I would have to say there was two major milestones in my life. I'm 61 now, two major milestones in my life. In my early 30s, we lost everything in a year period of time due to a water moratorium. I live in California where they stopped building. My husband was a contractor. I was a realtor. They stopped all building. So in a matter of a city council decision, we lost our ability to build. And that's what we did for a living. And so that was the first of three really big traumas that happened. First, we were unable to build, so no money coming in. About 6 months later, we had our house burned down, a faulty water heater, but we were not in the home. So it's not like I have memories of jumping out of a burning building. We were at work. And yet when we came to the house, we lost everything. And then the next day from Steve, my Allstate insurance man, I learned that we were underinsured, which I have come to believe now that many people are underinsured, but we could talk about that another day. And so what underinsured means is you're not going to have the same lifestyle you were used to living. So we lost our ability to build, and my husband's ability to earn income. And then we lost all our staff. And then I found out that I wasn't able to have children. And so through infertility and just one thing after another, after another, after another. And so I didn't really have the personal development history at that time in my life. I wished I did. And so I didn't really I'm sure I did the best I could in dealing with it, right? I can look back at my 30-year-old self and say, she did the best she could. And so, but that growth of coming out of those traumas, the things I did well, the things I didn't do so well, really made a shift. Now the marriage did not survive. We grew up through the traumas and became different people. Nobody worse or better, nobody bad or good, just we grew up differently. So the marriage didn't survive. And yet I came out of it with a renewed sense of strength, really, and courage. And I was very fortunate. I had a mentor at the time who said, you really should do some work on yourself as you go through this. And I had never really had anybody I'm as an avid reader, like I've always been a huge reader since Mr. Severson in the 4th grade. I've always been a huge reader, but no one had ever said, read personal development stuff. And so I was very fortunate. I picked up a Louise Hay book, The Power is Within You. That was the first book I ever read for personal development. And my world exploded. I was introduced to Jim Rohn. I was lucky enough to see him 3 times. And, I just started on this personal development journey. And if I could say, if there was one thing that really salvaged me from just really spinning like a top at that time with all those things happening, it was that somebody said, to quote Jim Rohn, work harder on yourself than your survival, than your transition, than your business and your job. And so that was a real milestone for me. That was number one. And the lessons that I got out of that were, I'm really not sure if I was very much a material type person at the time, but after losing everything, there's not a thing in the world I could lose right now and really get too wild about it. So, I was trying to find the positives, the gratitude in the things that happened. And so that was a big milestone. My next major life-changing milestone was probably 25 years later when I was 50 years old, or I guess that would have been 20 years later. When I was 50 years old, I had since been remarried for 15 years. And what I thought was a terrific marriage, and was very busy building my business and sales and working corporately and doing field development, and came home from a gig, was speaking quite a bit, came home from a gig to discover foot-long red hair all over the house. And I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that it wasn't my foot-long red hair all over the house. And so now this is 11 years ago, so I'm not going to break out in tears. And yet I cannot impress upon you enough how devastating this was for me. I authentically, sincerely thought I had a solid marriage. And for a year, he'd been living another life. So again, it's not woe is me. I know this happens to a lot of people, but at the time, it took me fetal to the floor. Like this betrayal was so unexpected, that it just really, I had to leave my job. They pay me to be perky and inspiring, and all I could do was cry. I did grieve well. I'm a good griever. I learned. I cried every day for 2.5 years. I'm never going to be that woman who gets sick because she held it all in. That is for sure. So I grieved very well. And the lessons with this, overcoming the betrayal, so many lessons. Number one, forgiveness, and not in word alone, like authentic, heartfelt forgiveness. Now, I can't tell you that happened immediately, but that was an ultimate outcome. So I read a great book, How Can I Forgive You? It's actually the title of the book. And the woman in this book, she's a PhD, and she talked about, hey, I know you want to get to unconditional forgiveness, but why don't you start with acceptance? And that led me on my road to where I could have authentic forgiveness and move through that. It also taught me, again, the importance of leaning on personal development. Like, who did I want to be? How do I want to, this whole idea of overcoming adversity. How did I want to come through that adversity? I knew for sure I didn't want to be that mad, bitter ex-wife. My mother set a glorious example of that for me my entire life. In fact, I got to tell her, you set a great example. I love you, Mom. You're my best friend. And in this area of your life, you've set a great example of what I don't want to be. I mean, 60 years later, she's still mad at Dad. She's had two marvelous loves, and she's still mad at him. Like I said, I don't want to be her. Like, I don't want to be that woman.
Can I share 2 points that I don't want people to miss? And I want to give you guys examples of how we see this in the harvest. You notice there's 2 things that she went through, 2 tough times that she went through. And she literally said, I had to, and she learned from very good counsel that you need to dive into personal development, right? And I'll give you an example with this community. So many times I'll see people like I'm like, man, where's this person hasn't been on the calls lately, right? And then they'll reach out, well, I've just been so busy. I got a lot going on. And ultimately, when things get tough, when they get busy or whatever it is, they run from personal development, right? The harvest is personal development. That's what it is. And people can only hear so many things from me. It can't just always come from me. But the bottom line is I see this time and time again. And when you guys are in a funk, when you're too busy, and most of the time, if you're running around like crazy, it's because your time management sucks. And you need to be in this so you can actually be disciplined with your time management so you're not running around like a psycho, right? But a lot of times when people start getting busy or when they start going through things, they run away from the things that make them better, that think differently, that actually get them to break out of that season a lot quicker. And then they just go into this whirlwind and, oh, nothing's going to help me, or I'll figure this out. And it just goes all the way down. And then they just go off the beaten path. So I don't want you guys to miss the fact that when times get tough, when you feel that you're quote unquote so busy, and hey, listen, I'm hoping that you guys are busy with money-making, productive activities. But let's face it, a lot of times people get busy with just in the transaction work, shit that isn't making them money. Stuff, it's just busy work, to-do list stuff. And then they start to, oh, I'm so busy with business and blah, blah, blah. And I want you to understand, like, do not fall into that trap, right? And when you find yourself getting overwhelmed, well, guess what? That means you need help. That means you need more accountability. That means you need a different mindset. That means you need better resources, whatever that is. So do not run away from the things that are going to make you better when you, quote unquote, start getting busy or when life happens. This is when you need it the most. Right? So I want you guys to understand that's a big lesson behind that. Now let's get into forgiveness, what she talks about, right? So maybe there's some of you sitting on this car right now. Well, what's this have to do with me? I never broke up that was like high school when I broke up. So I didn't get divorced, whatever that is. Right? Well, forgiveness can actually be a big factor in how you perform in every single way. There's probably some of you right now that are still pissed off at a friend, right? Maybe something happened 2 weeks ago and that person, you're like so mad at him, right? And the untrained mind does not understand how those little grudges, whether it's your friends, whether it's a boss, whether it's a conversation, whether it's something that happened last week, affects your performance today, affects your health today, because now you're not going to the gym because you just, maybe woke up late or something like that. So forgiveness is a very important tool. And this could be with a client that you had I argue with my clients all the time. Right? And not all the time, but I can't say that. But there's something, not every conversation with a client is sunshine and flowers, right? And sometimes you're going to be, listen, man, I'm going to have to forgive this person for how they acted because obviously this wasn't under my control and they got frustrated. Well, the better you are at forgiveness, the better you will be at delivering high quality customer service, right? So forgiveness is a very important term, even if you just didn't get out of a divorce. Right? So I don't want you guys to maybe not see how this is important to you, because forgiveness and what we were just talking about before that, like all this stuff it relates to everything that you're going through today. So I just wanted to make sure that none of this stuff goes over their head. That's my job, mediating all this, is to make sure that none of this important stuff goes over their head. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Leslie, but this.
No. I want to add two things to what you just said. You made a very good point about how personal development things are going bad, or perhaps we're in a down cycle. I spend time every week talking to top leaders, 6-7-figure sales leaders, and I remind them that at this high level of achievement, when things are going great, now more than ever, it's important to focus on personal development, right? You got to get your mindset ahead of the paycheck every single time. So it's not just when things are going bad. It's also when it's just always, it just should be always. And the second thing, forgiveness, the lesson I learned, forgiveness is for the forgiver. Forgiveness will set you free. And so to Devin's point, the little things, someone that said something, someone who disappointed you, doesn't have to be major like a divorce, but forgiveness is for the forgiver. It's for you. It sets you free, whether you realize it or not. And truly, I believe it helps us define the type of person we want to be. How do I want to walk through the world? Do I want to walk through the world holding all this grudge, holding all this energy? Because again, if you believe in energy and what we think about and what we feel, if you believe in how we vibrate at different levels, if you believe in what we think about, we attract. But if you believe in the law of attraction, then if you're holding in all that lack of forgiveness, we tend to attract like in kind. So
I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a Q&A. This guy I listened to, Andy Frisella, and it was a young guy, and he was, I don't know, maybe he's having trouble dating, got broken up with or something like that. And Andy went into this whole conversation of whether man or woman, a lot of times they want like the perfect match, right? I want this person to be super healthy. I want this person to be successful. I want this person to be this. I want this person to be that, right? And then they look at themselves and they're the total opposite. And they wonder why they're not getting that person, right? So it's like most times, whatever you're looking for, you probably want to work on being that person in a positive way, right? If you're looking for a lunatic, we'll probably help you with changing that. But for the most part, like if you are that person that holds grudges all the time, and you're like, well, I would like to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't hold grudges on me for weeks after something. Well, guess what? You should probably be that person that you want in your life. By the way, if you're hiring, by the way, whatever that is, your content that you're putting out there, most times you will attract the people that you want in your life, and that's good or bad. So if you're a bad leader, if you put out a bad message, you're going to attract people that aren't beneficial to your life, right? Same thing with food, right? Well, I want to look like this or I want to look like that, but you're bringing in all the nasty stuff. It's like, no, you got to start developing those habits, eating like that healthier person, being active like that healthier person, and then guess what? Eventually, you'll find that healthier person in the mirror, right? So, sorry, I just get fired up for stuff like this, Leslie, but you can continue on. This is your show.
I get fired up with stuff like this too. You're enjoyable. Community, you are lucky to be working with him. He is just a ball of fire, and he's saying really good stuff. And all right, so Devin, how would you like to proceed? We were going to talk about overcoming adversity.
Yeah, let's go into core values, right? Because I know you train. We'll go into core values, okay. And then I know you had a big role and still do with helping direct selling and sales and stuff like that. So I would love for you to go into after the core values and the importance of it and identifying, like there's some people that, let me see if he's on. I won't say any names, but this is just one example.
Don't look at their box.
So funny, right? So there's one individual specifically that was asking about core values, and they're not on this call, go figure. But for the most part, tell us the importance of core values, why is it important, not only in your business, but in your family and in your personal life. How do you even write down core values? Because some people know they need core, but how do I even write down core values? Like, what does that even look like? Yeah. Right. So can you kind of go into that first?
Yep. This is a great conversation. And I started tapping into core values for a little bit. I wrote about it in the book. And then I turned it into a keynote. And the first time I delivered a talk on core values, the audience, it was so obvious I was tapping into something where there was a high interest. If any of you have spoke, like I watched the audience and they were opening up and leaning forward, and I got all this positive response, not for me, but for the topic. And I knew, wow, I got something special here. So I've really been diving into core values, and I am absolutely convinced for anybody in sales, when you tap into your core values, the fears of being pushy or the fear of selling and the fear of saying the wrong thing, the fears that stop most people in sales from really tapping into their full potential. I believe when they tap into their core values, they are liberated. They are set free. So let me go through some core value information, and then I'll do my best to tie it. And again, I'm the type of woman, if you have any questions or you want to comment or you want to interact in any way, if I can make this topic real for you and your business, I'm happy to. Nothing is off base with me. All right. I'm here for you today. All right. So first of all, core values. I am constantly surprised how many very educated people don't know what a core value is, and more importantly, that they don't know what their core values are. And what I've learned is when the actions that we take and the way we interact with other people, when they are in alignment, life is really good. And yet conversely, when the actions and the behavior that we take are not in alignment with our core values, that's when things can go astray. Neil Gaiman is a marvelous author, and he writes this story about going after this hypothetical distant mountain, right? That his goal is to reach this distant mountain. And to quote him, he said, "I knew that as long as I kept walking towards the mountain, I would be all right. And when I was truly not sure what to do, I would stop and think whether or not it was taking me in the direction of the mountain." That's my analogy for core values. Is it taking you in the direction of your mountain? So
I want to elaborate on this real quick. I was just having a conversation with my one-on-one clients. And as you start growing, as you start making more money, as you start performing, all these opportunities start going in front of you, right? And the biggest thing is what I was telling the individual, you got to have, non-negotiables and core values of like, is this, like, what are my core values? Like with the end vision, like with my income, with how I am generating income, does whatever business it is, like what core values does this have to fit into, to where I know that it's either a yes or a no. And I'm not spending days and weeks and months thinking about, should I take this opportunity? Should I not? And every time that you're thinking about that, your business is suffering, right? So this is to relate this to real life stuff, guys. You will have opportunities come your way, new businesses, whatever that is. I want you to really key in on this.
When I started my consulting business in 2012, and I sit before you full of gratitude, a big bundle of gratitude, because it's the minute I hung my shingle, I've had more work than I could take. I mean, I've really done very little marketing. It's all referral based, and I'm as busy as I choose to be. And I never take that for granted for 1 second. But I go back to 2012 when I started Leslie Zann Consulting. It really wouldn't have penciled out in any plan. It was in the middle of a recession. It was a big financial risk, right? And the divorce, I bought the home and then divorce. So I had this big ass mortgage, and, nothing's for sure ever when you're going to be an entrepreneur. There was a lot of easier options. I was getting corporate gigs offered to me, good corporate gigs, like big field development gigs, right? With bonus and 6-figure and whatnot. Like there were easier options, but I just, coming out of the divorce again, doing that personal work, like really drilling down, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? I knew I wanted to start my own business. So even though at the time I wasn't thinking what core values are leading my behavior, looking back now, I can see that core values were leading every decision I made. For a core value of control. Like I wanted more control over my life. I did not want to go back into a corporate environment where, even though I'm good at it, okay, you just don't have the same control as when you're an entrepreneur. Creative expression. Even though I had a lot of leeway in my corporate positions for field development, no company I ever worked for ever gave me the green light to do enough personal development that I think is necessary for salespeople to be as successful as they want to be. So I didn't have the creative expression freedom that I wanted. Okay, so that was a core value that was driving me. Financial freedom. Right? For just freedom as a core value, financially, to be able to earn as much as I choose to based on my efforts and how I deliver value to the marketplace. Professional freedom, so I could set my own time and set my own hours and work with who I want to work with. Personal freedom, time for Leslie and time to work. So freedom was a core value that was driving me. Service is a core value that drives me every single day. I really believe that's playing a huge role in my ongoing success. Now, certainly I have to deliver the goods for sure, right? And I have to tell the truth for sure. But I believe my authentic core value of service and making a difference shines in everything I do. Now, again, at the time I started my business, I wasn't thinking this way, but looking back, I can see that these were some of the core values that drove me to take the risk and get after it when I started my business. So I would ask all of you on the call here today, where in your business would you like to see a change? And that's just something to think about. Where in your business would you like to see a change? Would you like more customers? Would you like different types of customers? Would you like to be better at your time management? Like, where in your business is your follow-up good? Are you making enough money? Do you have enough you time, right? So like, where in your business would you like to make a change? And so a point that I want to bring up, Devin, and then I'll pitch to you to have some good input. There's this glorious dichotomy between our core values and settling. Like I wrote a whole chapter on settling. I'm so keen on this topic. Settling, I believe, is a result of not knowing our core values, right? And so our decisions don't lead to what I call right action. We're not, as Neil said, we're not moving towards our mountain. And so we settle in our income, we settle in our career, we settle in our relationships, we settle with our health. I mean, settling can be a whole other conversation. There's so many different reasons why we settle. I think number one, lack of awareness. We don't realize we're settling until it's painful enough, right? Too often the doctor's got to say, dude, you either do this or you're going to be really sick. Or the boss calls you in and says, dude, you either do this or you're going to lose your job. Or you come home and the wife says, dude, like my bags are packed unless something happens, right? For most of us, for many of us, we have to wait till something so dramatic happens for us to realize, whoa, I've been settling in this situation. And I believe core values, when you're clear on your core values, you get to that place less often. You don't settle as often. I do core value work twice a year. This is how keen I am. And I do core value work twice a year and get very clear on my core values, because what I have learned is that when I am clear and aware of my core values, they drive my behavior. To Devin's point, they are drivers of behavior. They are drivers of attitude. They are drivers of courage. They are drivers of vision. They are drivers of belief, right? Like some easy examples to what Devin said, like health. When I know health is a core value of mine, right? I get on the bike. I watch what I eat. I party moderately, right? When I know health and vitality is a core value, it drives my behavior. When I know gratitude is a core value of mine, so that makes me more humble. That makes me more gracious. That makes me more tolerant. That makes me more forgiving, because gratitude is a high core value of mine. When I know financial security, right? Okay, so it's just me, right? Still single gal. So I'm not going to create my financial plan. Like, I don't doubt there's a great love in my future. I don't doubt that for a second. He's out there somewhere looking for me. We haven't found each other yet. I don't doubt that at all. Okay. But I am not going to create my financial retirement plan based on Mr. Next showing up. Right? So financial security is a core value of mine. So how does that reflect? How I show up for work, how I come from service, how I collaborate, how I deliver with my clients. So knowing your core values, and Devin, I believe many of the people on the call here today are in sales. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Business owners, salespeople, attorneys, everybody has to sell. So yes, everybody's in sales.
So I've come to believe, and again, nothing I say, I don't have to be right, my friends, ever. I'm always going to tell you my truth. So I believe many of the core values that drive salespeople and entrepreneurs and people in business, service is a big core value. Collaboration is a big core value. Community is a big core value. Financial security, independence, freedom. I mean, these are the core values that tend to drive many of us in business. So when you are keen on that core value, and so here's though a sticky wicket that a lot of people don't realize. There are two types of core values, and I learned this as I was digging into this core value work. There's two types of core values. There's aspirational. Okay, aspirational core values. These are the core values we want or wish were true. They may be our hope, but they're not our current reality. Okay. A great example is someone who says health is a core value and they're not as healthy as they could be, or they're not making the right choices, or they're not going for a walk, or they're not, and it is not about being skinny, my friends. It is about being healthy and strong and vibrant and flexible. All right. So if aspirational are those core values you wish were true, but they're not playing out in your real life, as compared to authentic core values. Authentic core values, I'll say, you show me your core values, you show me your life. And they're going to combine. Those authentic core values are the ones that are truly driving your behavior, truly driving your vision, truly driving your actions. And there's a big distinction. And some of you, the more you think about this or dive into this or start looking into this, you may realize, oh my gosh, I've had this, what I thought was a core value, but it's really quite aspirational when you look at your life. Devin?
Yeah. So one thing I want you guys to do is I'm always looking to challenge you in this community. So it's not going through the motions, being on the call and then forgetting about it. And, oh, it was a great call. I'm excited. I know core values are important. No, I want you to do this exercise and write down with your life, with the compass of your life, the mountain that you're trying to climb, right? I identify what are the core values that are going to be your shield to keep you focused, moving forward, blocking all the distractions, right? Because let me tell you this right now, and I share this quote all the time, there's nothing scarier than climbing a mountain your whole life that when you get to the top of the mountain, you realize you don't want to be there, right? So one, I want you guys to write that down and identify what are your core values, right? Moving forward, like for your business, for your family. The next thing is, and it's funny, I like that you said aspirational core values and authentic core values. Leslie, with this type of coaching, the big thing that I always like to do is try and make things simple, and then people identify what it is they want. How can we stack things on top to increase the percentage of the chance that they're actually going to execute what they're talking about, right? Because you can say, right, what your goals are, right? So this is why this is important. Typically, when you ask people, all right, well, what is it that I say this all the time with goals? Like so many people, their intention level is a 10, but their commitment is a 2, right? So I want to do this, right? I want to make more money. I want to do, all right, so what do you, like, this is, all right, so you want to be financially free. You want to be healthy. That's all good, right? But the question is, what is your commitment going to be? Is that going to match up your intention right now? Now, core values is going to be a tool that you're going to use to probably raise your commitment of a 2 to probably a 4, right? Or a 5, right? So you're going to use your core values to raise your commitment level because everybody has high intentions, right? And the other thing is a lot of times when people, when you ask, hey, what is it that you truly want out of life? Most people, your answer that you follow up with is just a bullshit answer, right? It's just a comfort zone answer. And then you hit them with, if I wave the magic wand in front of you and in 5 years, 2027, if you can wave that magic wand, or next year, 2022 is about to come. If this is the same time, right before 2023 is about to hit, and I can wave a magic wand and the answer wasn't no, and you weren't holding anything back, what would that answer be? That's the answer that I'm looking for. Not the bullshit comfort zone, what everybody else thinks, or what you're trying to feel sorry for yourself about because you really don't want to stretch yourself. Like, that's what's going to dig you deep on that commitment level. You got to get real with that. But these core values, guys, you build out this list. This is going to raise your commitment level, right, to match your intention level, because that's where all the frustration comes. Everybody, and then what happens, right? Like, oh, you start blaming everybody else. Oh, the community doesn't work, even though we're bringing some of the highest performers in the country on. Even though there's a bunch of people doing it and they're getting results. You're trying to blame everything. Oh, well, I went through this. Oh, I went through that. You get the right core values in there, it's going to continue. Everybody has shit. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. So if you get maybe one of your core values, I know with TCS New Jersey, F in family, I broke it down to an acronym, TCS family. F stands for fortitude, right? I want my people to, no matter what happens, they will have the fortitude to show up every day, to continue to build their business. I got realtors who are just starting in their business. And what happens when you're just starting any business, right? It's tough. Your first year, your first 2 years, your first 3 years, while everybody else is in their 9 to 5s making 50, 60, 70, 80 grand. And then when you start picking up speed, then somebody comes in and tries to buy your future and offer you a salary that you could probably double, triple that in real estate if you just stayed in business, right? But fortitude has you keep coming back because you're holding the vision of what, and this is for anybody, whatever it is that your goal is, your business, you start your own, but whatever that is, your sales goal, right? Fortitude keeps you coming back when all these other distractions come. People are trying to buy your future. You're feeling sorry for yourself. You heard the word no. You had a bad deal. You had a bad day. Your house got burnt down. Fortitude, that's a core value. So if you follow that, what's going to happen? Right? Oh, well, that's one of my core values. So I know I can't be a sissy and make an emotional decision and just throw the flag in. Or, on our Deep Roots call yesterday, we talked about a good partner of mine. He has this line called fight, not flight. And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but that's when you take flight. But this is why core values is very important for you guys. And by the way, if you have a family, right? If you have core values for your family, it can probably help your family. If you are an owner of a business, and you have people in your organization, core values will help them perform at a higher level. If you're hiring, if you're firing, you do that off of core values, right? This is very important. I just want to keep stressing to you guys the importance of core values, because I don't want you to take it lightly.
Devin.
Yo.
Let me interrupt. So I've been blessed to have as a mentor Billie Jean King. So I encapsulated a lot of core value material that I would never really consider as a business owner. She obviously overcame a lot of adversity in her own life. And as we'd sit, and again, you'd start in maybe just tennis, and she would talk about different players and their work ethic, and you know, they don't want to train, they don't want to put in the time, they only want the glitz and glamour. So she would dissect and again impose her thought of what a champion, true champion is, and what that takes to develop. And I tried to again adopt those and put that into the car dealership. Acceptance of other people. We were the first car dealer in the LGBT phone book. We used phone books back then. So again, she got me into, each time we would meet, she would tell me things that she was doing, and then I would adapt those in my own life for philanthropy, how to give back to the community. And each one of those things was a building block that I felt, again, when you keep all those things in place, it develops a culture of all, again, your family and also your employees. You have a rough bunch of salespeople that this guy's gay, or you know, she's a lesbian or whatever. But as they realized, that's a big part of business, you know, dual income, no kids at the time. Again, it just changed the culture of the dealership to acceptance and growth. So, and then one other thing about community, I want to give kudos to Justin. I spent some time at his house when I was a ghost half the meeting, but he obviously took a lot of time to get his mind and body right. And then his family commitment is amazing. He was in there doing some work, picking up the kids, coming back, spending time with the kids. It was just really good to see how his values they're there. So kudos.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man.
Nice. You know, I'm a big sports fan. My grandfather's a NFL Hall of Fame football coach, NFL. He's passed now, but I grew up with sports and a big sports fan. And so I even created a presentation called Find Your Inner Champion, where I take my favorite sports video clips and tie what makes an athlete great are the same qualities or characteristics that make us great in anything else. You know, like I have Spud Webb winning the slam dunk contest. I have Phil Mickelson winning his first major. I got Kirk Gibson back in that bottom of the ninth in the World Series game. I mean, just times that when people just really rose to that occasion. And what's the difference? So I deal with salespeople all day, every day. And I always say, why don't more salespeople succeed? Personal opinion, I think they're lacking in two things. And it's a choice that they're lacking. It's a choice. They're lacking in discipline and self-accountability, period. Right? They just can't muster the discipline to do what it takes to go through the muck, to be consistent, to show up, to get out of their comfort zone, to get the rejection, to work on themselves. They just can't seem to find the discipline, which is a choice. And they choose not to hold themselves accountable. To Devin's point earlier, they're blaming everything else out there, right? It's all external, right? When really, to be a champion, you've got to be able, whether you're the boss of a team, whether you own a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, life in general, that self-accountability, decide who do you want to be and how do you want to walk through the world. And I think core values play a key role. In fact, Devin, I'll send you a worksheet that you can pass out if you choose to the group here. And that will be a wonderful exercise where it helps you how to identify your top 10 core values. That really is a fun exercise, and I highly recommend you do it. I do it twice a year because I think it's transformational in so many ways. So,
And by the way, like, and I noticed that you say like every year. Remember, guys, like, maybe just like with the harvest, right? We have a system. We're about to come into this. We're about to close out the year, and what happens? Well, we have next year we're going to run the same system: personal development, SO, your sphere of influence, your database, the whole system again, and that's going to keep going. Why? Because every year it's going to look different. Right? Maybe this year you probably did everything and you maybe rated yourself at like a 2. You're like, you know what? I know last year we talked about my database, my email list, my CRM, but yeah, we talked about it, but I still have nobody in there. Right? So this year I'm going to take it seriously. Right? So so everything's going to look different. Like, who knows? You may have core values for this year and then you nail it. Now it's a lifestyle. Now it's a habit to where the following year you may have, I don't know, maybe you want to change one, right? Is that fair to say, Leslie? Is that something that you realize that like it could change, or this has to be something that it can't change?
I was just making some notes. So if you're in sales, you may be very conscious that, and if there's systems to your selling, which for most sales, there's systems, repetition, the importance of repetition, and how many people resist repetition. Right? Like, oh my God, are they telling me that shit again? Like, you've been telling me that stuff all the time. Like, how come you're telling me the same thing? They don't understand the importance of repetition. I believe it's because we're a different person. Intellectually, I may get what Devin's saying today. Intellectually, I may process it, but I may not be ready to put it into practice. Like, I'm sure all year he's told you a whole bunch of great stuff. And intellectually, you may get it, but I bet you can all pinpoint 1 or 2 or a dozen times. And one day you woke up and said, bam, now I get what he's saying. Or now you took the action, said, oh my gosh, why did I delay? Right? Like, he's been calling it red all day long. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's red. Because we're a different person. Something's happened in our life. We are ready to now finally put it into practice. That's why repetition of the fundamentals is so important. Like, I could go off on a basketball analogy, but I won't. But that's why, that's the perfect analogy. Like, whether you play basketball or not, what are the fundamentals of basketball? Dribbling, passing, shooting. I'm 5'3", size 6.5 foot, and have a 2-inch vertical leap. That's probably never going to be my sport. And yet I love basketball. And this is a great example of putting those fundamentals into practice. It's the same thing in our sales, but most people can't find the discipline to do those fundamentals and have the repetition over and over and over and over again. Something else.
Story on that real quick. Hold on. You'll appreciate this. I have a big real estate coach company called Elite Ops, and we had a guest speaker, Heath Evans, and he played with Tom Brady. He won Super Bowls, and he told this story about Tom Brady. Right. And if you guys don't know who he is, if you're trying to do anything at a high level, you probably should know who he is.
Yeah.
But the one thing that he said, and I'll never forget this, and he said that before every game, he's still doing air routes. Right. Air routes are like nobody's out there. The basic fundamentals that he did when he was in Pee Wee football.
Yep.
Right. And it's all the same stuff. So while everybody is out there, like, I talk about this all the time. A lot of people that I work with are in an organization, they'll do something, it works, and then they go away from doing it. Because it's that consistent action, like doing the same thing over and over again. But the highest performers nail it. Same thing, like we got people in this community. They do, karate, jujitsu, whatever. You can't make it up those ranks unless you master doing the steps over and over and over until it becomes a habit. Till you do it, till you make the calls for 2 hours a day and you don't think about it. Then you rank up to something else. And then you start, all right, then I'm going to start building networking up. And then it's like over. And then social media until you like over and every week over. I'm posting myself. I'm branding. Everybody knows that I'm in business. I'm not a ghost to the 500 people that are connected to this free tool that I have access to. Then you build that. And then it's like over and over and over again. So Tom Brady's another example of the highest example of still doing the same things that he did when he was in little leagues.
That's why we call them fundamentals, folks. You know, that's why we call them, but sports lends itself to millions of great analogies on practicing the fundamentals and developing that muscle memory. Couple of tangents I want to take. I've read some notes here, a couple of thoughts I want to make sure and get in here. So to Devin's point about how people do the things, the right things, the fundamentals, they get to a certain level of success and they stop doing those things. We've all experienced that, right? There's a great book, if you haven't read it yet, called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she talks about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. If you haven't read this book, put it on your list, right? I'm a reader. And so she's talking about how people get to a certain level of success and they stop doing those things that got them there because they haven't embraced that growth mindset. I mean, every concept in the book is just a mind blower and transformational. So I would highly recommend that. And or another great book on the same topic, a little tangent of it, is if you haven't read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Right. So first half of the book, Gay talks about having an upper limit problem. Okay. We get to a certain level of success. Now maybe it's not related to doing the fundamentals over and over again. It may have nothing to do with that. Maybe it's all psychological. Never thought I would be this successful in the first place. Nobody in my family's ever made this kind of money before. And wow, shit, like I never thought I'd be here. And they have an upper limit problem, meaning they only feel comfortable at a certain level of success, finances, and achievement. And then unconsciously, they start doing things to come back down. So the whole first half of the book, it's called The Big Leap. He talks about having an upper limit problem. Then the second half of the book, he talks about working in your zone of genius, which I just never forgotten. And as I work with my team, this is what makes me, another reason why I delegate so beautifully is because I want to make sure that I'm working in my zone of genius and doing those things that only Leslie can do and that Leslie should be doing. And I can let the other gals do what they do best, right? So, because I do not have an upper limit problem. So, so that's a super good book. One other thing I wanted to talk about quickly while we were talking about sales and core values. For many of you, you are doing social media posts. And for some people in sales, like they're really comfortable in talking about their products. And if you've done any social media studying, you know, they talk about having curiosity posts, like we're making it curiosity. What is it about your product or service that you can create curiosity, or educational posts? What are the points of differentiation around your products that make them different, or your service that makes it different? But not everyone is keen on business forward posts, right? If you're in sales. And so I try to point out that if you, as a salesperson, can get clear on your core values, it will absolutely shift not only your comfort zone, but the authenticity and the messaging of your social media, from lives, from posts to videos, every aspect of it. When you're coming from core value, so perhaps you're coming from your core value of service, or perhaps you're coming from core value of community, or perhaps you're coming from core value of being an entrepreneur. So if you are posting and you are selling, I would say really think about your core values, get some clarity: community, collaboration, freedom, entrepreneurship, service, mentorship, teaching, leadership. Get clear on those core values, and hell, you will never run out of topics to post about, because it's really just coming from your authentic passion. And one other thing to think about if you're in sales, as far as social media posts, I mean, what's been going on in the world for the past 2 years, like 2 topics that I've been recommending to my clients that they should consider to post about is, number one, the first female recession. I remember reading about this originally in the spring of earlier in the year. And the first article I believe I read it in was USA Today. So don't make anything up, go online, Google it, and get the real facts. But the first female recession, there are fewer women in the workforce today than the 1980s. What's been going on through the pandemic led so many women to leave their jobs, go home to take care of the kids. Some of them are happy about this. A lot of them aren't happy about this, right? So there's this whole, like, hundreds of thousands of women who might be looking for your product, your service, your business, or whatnot. And rather than using it at that tag. I'm more like, how do you feel about that? And maybe to the women on the call today, like, how does that make you feel? How can you turn that into an engaging, authentic, compelling post? And then ask for engagement. Are you one of those women? How does it make you feel? Right? So the female recession is one big topic that lends itself to many social media posts that allows you to come from authenticity. The second is the big resignation. Okay, 4.3 million Americans quit their jobs in August. Okay, and many of them without a plan B. And again, a big portion of this group were women. A big portion of this group came from what's now, if you've been studying this, the obvious of hospitality, travel, hotel, service. 4.3 million people quit their jobs. So number one, they may be looking for what you have. They just may not know the option is there. They're trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. These are people who quit without a plan B. Why? Because through the pandemic, through the isolation, through being home, through the lack of choices, however it landed on them, they're reevaluating their life.
Yep.
And they're deciding they want their life, their health, their career, their businesses to be different. How can you bring that into your social media post just to get people to think and how you, your product, your service, your company might be a solution for them? Devin?
Yeah, you talk about people, like, oh man, I can't hire anybody, blah, blah, blah. What is the message that you're putting out there? Right? The unemployment's paying this. Well, is your message inspiring enough to make them not think short term about a check and look at, because they're excited about the opportunity that you're posting out there? Nine times out of 10, it's not. Well, we're hiring. Well, that's great. Like, who else isn't, But if somebody puts out there and shares a vision of what your life could look like if you went and committed to our company, and to them, it's worth a lot more than that unemployment check, or you're targeting that audience. This is great. I mean, now we're even on a discussion for hiring and recruiting, right? And you're a high performer, but you're in a position right now to where it's the highest rate of women that, whatever she just said, and then 4.2 million quit their jobs, blah, 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 blah. But you're still looking, you're saying you're struggling to hire. Well, guess what? Your message just isn't good enough. Or maybe you're just not inspiring enough people to want to be in your organization, right? And if you don't believe me, I know a lot of you guys listen to Andy Frisella, right? And he even says on his podcast, he's like, everybody's out there. I got so many people hit me up. I can't hire. Well, listen, I ain't having enough problem hiring, because people want to work with me. People want to be within my organization. Now, how do you do that? Well, which is what we all talk about, is if I followed you on social media, am I excited to even know about who you are, let alone most times I won't even know what you do, right? And then you're wondering why. If I meet you out at a network, so maybe you're like, well, I don't do social media that much. I'm an in-person type of guy. Well, how do you portray yourself when you're out there, right? What's your conversation look like? Do you have high energy? Do you look healthy? Do you look inspired? Do you communicate? Do you sound intelligent? I don't know. But like most people, just the same topic that we went to before, about everybody wants this talent. Everybody wants these people, but they don't want to be that person. Right? So, this all goes back to that stuff. And then all, again, stems back to core values.
If you're going to quote Andy, you need a couple of F-bombs, bros, and dudes.
No, but I listen, I always like to try and tie in what a lot of people follow, because sometimes if it just comes from me, there's still skepticism, even though I've transformed and people already are winning. But I always like to say, all right, well, this actually came from Tony Robbins. Do you believe me now? Like, take action. Like, remove the skepticism.
The magic of another voice. Jeff Harris, do you have a question, my friend?
I do, bro. I hope that helps.
Okay,
so
dude.
First off, I'll throw this out that just came in. Tim Jennings turned me on to this. So for those of you, Sean Fagan, I know you're on the journey now. A bunch of you have completed it also. Go grab it. But I wanted to ask you about the core values. You made a couple comments that you review them and go through them twice a year. Yep. What's the reason for you doing that twice a year?
That is a great question. And good luck if you decide to do 75 hard.
Already done. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
This community is no joke. You know how many people completed 75 hard in this community? It's unbelievable. The pounds I started the harvest in January. The pounds that were lost in this community, forget about now, even within 3 months, I would say it's, if not 500, damn sure close to 1,000. Like, Yeah, all these people are massively inspiring, man. It's been and executors. They're out.
Way to
taking
go,
action.
bro. Okay, dude. Jeff, I won't drop all the F-bombs because that seems to land better when it's coming from a man. Yet I can bro and dude you all day long. Okay, so why do I do it twice a year? Couple of reasons. Number one, I'm a different woman. Things may be different in my life. I may be in a new season in my career. I may be in a new season personally. I'm just a different woman 6 months later. Now, I'll tell you, I've come to learn, because I've done this twice a year for about 9 years now. And so I've come to learn that there's about, of my top 10, like I take you through a whole list of all of them. And I even put this in the book, whole list of all of them. Then you're going to take them down to 10, and then you're going to prioritize them. And I've learned it's a priority for that day, that season, that chapter in my life. Now, granted, maybe 5 or 6 tend to always be in the top 10, but it's been fascinating to see the difference in the priority. Now, a few years ago when I got sick, obviously health, that was always in there, went right up to number 1. Right? 1 year, totally unexpectedly, silence. Now, I'm a woman of many words, right? They pay me to chat. So silence came into my top 10. And I had to really think, like, where the hell did silence come from? And then I realized for the past 9 months, I've been meditating. And this is the way it bubbled up, that not only did I come to appreciate the meditation time, but the value it was bringing to my life. More humble, more tolerant, more patient, and it came into a core value. So now when I know that silence is a authentic core value, it puts me on the mat more consistently. So as we change and evolve, like, you don't want to stay stuck, you don't want to be stagnant, like, you want to continue to be the best Jeff that you can be. And the people that come into your life and the experiences and the situations, they help, us transform and evolve. As we continue to be keen on our core values, as you change as a man, it's going to allow you to be even more clear on who you want to be and how you want to respond and how you want to run your life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's
Jeremy.
powerful stuff.
Jeremy, I see your hand up. You still there? Jeremy,
I'm mute. Can you guys hear me?
Hi,
Yep.
Jeremy.
Hey, how are you? Sorry I'm not on video. Thank you so much for coming on. The information has been invaluable. I really enjoy it. I'm trying to get you off speakerphone here so I can speak on my phone.
Okay.
I wanted to add to what you said. So I want to give some people some real life and not just, I love what you're saying. I was working in core values, and what I got out of it was we go through this exercise, which I personally found very hard. Because I was taking values of what I value in life, of being, as Devin would say, the surface stuff, like being a kind person. Is once I learned what core values really means, it opened my mind to a whole different way of living. But I wanted to add, Devin was very big on some of the processes that Devin's put into us are amazing. And if you do the core values exercise, you add that to what Devin's system is. So your daily routine in the morning, when you plan out your day, you remind yourself of some of the new core values that you did in the exercises. Then it becomes a part of your life. So I really appreciate everything you said. And then doing it two times a year, what a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. But I just wanted to add, I didn't know how to put this in text, is everything we learned today, if we can incorporate this in what Devin's taught us about planning, you will then focus your core values into your life. That's all I wanted to add.
And Jeremy and Jeff, what I neglected to say is I take my top 10 core values and I post them inside the cabinet where I get my vitamins every morning.
Exactly.
actually-
Reminding yourself.
Visually see them every day. They are literally drivers of behavior, courage, attitude, vision, unconditionally.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Yep. All right. So, Devin, did we want to talk a little bit about overcoming adversity, or how would you like to proceed with this fun harvest group?
So because you deal with a lot of, from what I remember, you deal with a lot of like coaching direct selling companies and stuff like that. So I'm all about and we've gotten a lot of tactical advice, which has been awesome. I always like to have that balance of motivation and tactical advice that you guys can take and change your life with. So what do you feel, as far as like coaching direct sales? Because at the end of the day, we're all in direct sales. Like, that's it. If you're not making a sale, you're not in business. guys, I don't care what you know. If you do not have clients, you do not have a business, right? So what are some of the strategies or tactics that you found helped? Because we're in, we have some people in here who are in like network marketing businesses, and everybody should be modeling what they have phenomenal training in these network marketing businesses, right? And if everybody took that stuff in their own business, they could really succeed there too. So what do you find are the biggest breakthroughs or the biggest things that help people win with direct selling that you found?
Yep. Okay. So first of all, just to let everyone know, my niche for the past 3 years has been in the network marketing, direct selling world. I was in the world personally, corporately. I've been head of sales for 4 different companies, billion-dollar brands. And so who hires me now? My clients today, when I went off on my own, either a company, a corporate team hires me to either consult with them with their tools, materials, onboarding, whatnot, or to train for their whole field or their top leaders, or top leaders in the profession hire me to work with them and their team. So I work with inspired people every single day. I love the profession. I think there's no other profession on the planet that allows people to be as great as they choose to be. So I'm always very inspired with the concept of getting up in the morning and making it happen. And so I would have to, so some concepts really that I work with people all the time. First of all, overcoming fears and limiting beliefs.
That is huge, because that stops everybody.
That stops everyone. I don't care how skilled you are. Anyone can learn the skills. You can learn how to sell. You can learn how to prospect. You can learn how to overcome objections. You can learn how to talk to your clients. You can learn the skills. I love Jim Quick. You can learn the skills, but if your head is full of fears and limiting beliefs, you are just a highly skilled, stuck person, not moving forward. And so to do the work, to find the courage to do the work and figure out why these fears or limiting beliefs are stopping you, really doing the work. So I write my book about the 5 universal fears, what I believe are the 5 universal fears: rejection, failure, success, judgment, and change. Like, these are the 5 universal fears that I believe stop most people from going forward. Now, fear of rejection, when I mean, it's been a couple of years. Well, I just did my first 3 live events, but I used to go out every weekend. So when I would be in front of a live audience, I would say, show of hands, how many people claim fear of rejection? And everyone just loves to claim fear of rejection. I don't know why. They just love to fear of claim of rejection. So I'll tell you, rejection is a choice. Rejection is a choice. I tell the sales people, look, when somebody tells you no, they're not telling you no to your soul. And yet you take it that way. You take it so personally. They just don't care about your products or your business or your company. They just don't care about that right now. It is not a personal affront. And yet, because they haven't done the personal development work, every no is a chip away at their soul. And so I tell the story about dating. I haven't dated since I was 22. And before COVID, when I was starting to get out and get dating, like, I paused because when I was 22, rejection was a big deal. If I liked a boy and a boy didn't like me, I did take it personally. It did frame the way I saw myself. Well, going out dating now, shit, I'm not 22 years anymore, right? So I want to date on my terms. So intellectually, I understand I may like a man and he may not dig me, but I'm still marvelous. Right. And so you got to be in that space of, if you get to know, if they don't want your products, if they don't want your company, if they don't want to be a client, if they don't want, like, you're still marvelous. Nor does it negate your company, your products, your service. It negates nothing. It's just they have no interest. And that is a learned skill, and that is a choice. I choose not to be rejected.
Leslie, there's a guy on this call, Jim Butts, who said this. I think it was probably on a Deep Roots call. He was like, whenever somebody rejects me and says no, it's just they don't understand how awesome I am. Right? Did you say something like that, Jim?
Yeah, if the flaw in your character doesn't allow you to recognize how awesome I am, then that's your problem, not mine.
That was a classic line right there.
Classic line right there. But fun aside, This one fear stops more people in sales from reaching a level of potential that they could. And it really is sad, right? Like, you just can't get past rejection. So if you want, David, do you want me to quickly go through the 4 other fears? Or okay. So fear of failure. You know, my friends, if we are going to go on any journey, if you're going to go on any journey in life, personally, professionally, emotionally, you are going to fail. So the key here is, what is your perception of failure? You must shift your perception of failure. Failure doesn't mean you did a bad job. Failure doesn't mean you lost. Fail doesn't mean a game ender. Like, I believe you have 2 choices when you fail: learn the lesson or quit, right? Those are your 2 options. I prefer to learn the lesson. Right? A little aside on this whole idea of perfectionism. Like, I look at perfect, you know, people say I got to be perfect. I'm trying to do it perfect. I see perfectionism as self-sabotage in every single way. Nobody said to be perfect. Now, I have high standards. I have high standards to do the best that I can do, but that's not trying to be perfect. People who try to be perfect, and we see it all the time. I'm not going to talk till I have the exact words. Like, I'm going to prepare, but I'm never going to act, right? Because they're so afraid of failure. So you must shift your perception of failure and see it as a lesson, learn from it, and continue to move on. Okay. Fear of success. Now, this is an interesting one. How often people say, like, fear of success, like, who would be afraid to be successful? Well, a lot of people. And I think fear of success comes from a couple of different ways. Fear of success, in many cases, I believe something happened when you were young. Like, you said something grand, right? You said something grand to someone like, I'm going to get a lead in the school play, or I'm going to sell more Girl Scout cookies than anybody else, or I'm going to climb to the top of that mountain, or you said something grand, and the person you said it to looked at you and said something to the effect of, no, you're not. Like what makes you think you're going to do that? And then all the rationale. Boys don't do that. Girls don't do that. Nobody in our family ever did that. Don't get bigger than your britches. They said something that started a tape that viewing grand wasn't good. Like, reaching to your full potential wasn't a good thing, because boys don't do that. Girls don't do that. Nobody in our family ever does that. And that, depending on how old you are, that tape has been running for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so I think that's a place where we have to realize, hey, I can do this. You've got to, again, this is the digging deep. This is the doing the work and figuring yourself out and figuring out where that started and put an end to that tape. I think another area where fear of success shows itself is the messages you got as a child around money. Right? Some of us grew up in a household where the messaging around money was negative, the root of all evil, right? So it wasn't a good thing to be wealthy. Oh, those bad people, right? Those, if you feel that you were given negative message around money and wealth as a child, and it's still impacting you now, I can recommend a great book called The Soul of Money, S-O-U-L, The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, L-Y-N-N Twist. And she does a marvelous job is working you through the different issues. So fear of success. Another aspect of that is what Gay Hendricks talks about, that upper limit challenge. Right. And we see that a lot in the lottery winners. Why so many lottery winners within a few years not only have lost all the money, they're more broke than when they won the lottery money. It's because their self-worth, their self-deserve, their self-confidence never rose to the level of the new income. So consciously or unconsciously, they started making those decisions so that the money disappeared, which is a whole other conversation, but a fascinating one in itself. So fear of success. Fear of judgment. What will people think? Oh my gosh. You know, my advice to salespeople is, look, all these fears that keep you stuck. I don't want to have my feelings hurt. I don't want anyone to tell me no. Like, I want them to like me. I want them to join my community. And how come they don't want to play with me? And how come they don't want to work with me? All of that is self-focused. It's all self-focused. When you can open your heart and authentically have service for your clients, when you are more focused on giving good service than having your feelings hurt, when you're more focused on giving good service than somebody telling you no, when you are more focused on giving good service than all the inner monsters that are having you doubt yourself, everything shifts. Like everything completely shifts. So fear of judgment. What will people think? What will people think if I make more money than my husband or my wife or my father? What will people think if we put the kids in private school? What will people think if I sell the old truck and get a Mercedes? What will people think? And the answer has to be, who gives a shit? As long as you're being honest and smart and nice, like, you know, and not lying or cheating, right? As long as you're being good and nice and giving your best and coming from truth and coming from passion, you got to get to a point, who cares what people think? You know, there's a great title of a book. What other people think of me is none of my business, right? What other people think of me is none of my business. So, that's such a great way to walk through the world. Like, we all want to be liked. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. But there's that fine line of allowing other people's opinions to paralyze us to the point that we steal our own dream. That's what the shame is. That's what the crime is. That's what we have. That's a choice not to allow that. Right. So fear of judgment. And the final one.
That was a powerful line right there that I do not want you guys to forget. Can you say that again? That steal your dream line?
When we listen to other people's negative opinions of ourselves, we are choosing to steal our own dream. And it's a crime. It is a crime. I see that in sales all the time. I see that every single day. People start their business, 3 people say boo and they quit. Like, dude, now we're channeling Andy all day. Bro, you steal your own dream, bro. Right? They stole their own dream because they can't take that fear of judgment of what other people think. Again, and how do we get past this? First, we have to have awareness that these things are happening. And then we have to find the courage. We have to be willing to do the work. When I talk about that, that's be willing to do the personal development work, to figure yourself out so that we understand what has to happen for us to get stuck, paralyzed, triggered, mad, afraid. Like, what has to happen so we can make choices? You know, it's like mindset trumps skill set every time. Mindset is everything. And mindset comes from practice, right?
Mindset trumps skill set.
Every time, all day long, on any given day, for sure. Final fear real quick, and then I'll pitch it back to you, Devin. Fear of change. Well, here's another one, right? Because we get comfortable. We get so comfortable with where we are. Even if we're miserable, this kind of follows with settling also. Even if we're unhappy, even if we're miserable, even if we're frustrated, even if we're stagnant, even if we're still dreaming of a completely different life, career, health, whatever, we don't like change. People aren't comfortable with change. There's a great quote I love. Don't give up what you want most, okay? Don't give up what you want most for what you need now, okay? Don't give up what you want most, a new career, new health, love, more money, whatever, new lifestyle. Don't give up what you want most for what you need now. Security, risk adverse, same old, comfort zone. Gosh, it gives me chills. Like, because like these are the decisions. These are the decisions we deal with every day, all day long. But most people aren't aware that they are making these decisions all day long.
This is so relatable, and I'll give you an example. Like, for example, I have a real estate company, and there's some part-time agents in our company too, and you know they want to go full time. Right? They want to go full time. And that line of don't give up what you want most for what you need now. And that's not just saying like, you know, just stop your income, go bankrupt until you actually close your next deal. But the point is like that line is very powerful to where it's like, this is what you want most. And what will happen is the funny thing is from what we're coaching in here to get them, you know, thriving, performing at a higher level, then a little promotion comes, right? For an extra $15,000 or $20,000. And then that's what stops them from going all in on making that full laser focused effort from building a real estate business that they truly want. But it's like that comfort now. And then we have an example, Andrew, who's on our team. He was like, I got a restaurant GM position. And then he was like, you know what? Like, this isn't truly what I want. His first full-time year in real estate, he's blowing the doors off of it. And, that's what happens when you make that jump.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But this line and mine, I mean, dude, we got quotes here, guys, that, if you write these down and just put them on the back of your computer or on Post-its in front of your computer, man, it's like your day will change. The way you think about things will change. That's just the bottom line. So
I'm big. I got stickies all over my house.
yeah,
One of my favorites. I'm willing to see things differently.
there we go.
Oh no, I'm telling you. That was after the divorce. That became one of the stickies. I am willing to see things differently. I am willing to see things differently. And then one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes that's been in my office forever: for things to change, you have to change. Although I always personalize or put it in the first tense for me. For things to change, I have to change. Best quote in the whole world by Jim Rohn. For things to change,
My routines have to change. My habits have to change. If I want to get better, my routine, I actually have to go to the gym. That has to change. What I eat has to change. And I want to, before we hop off, because we're getting up to the end, you said also something, and I relate it to, let's just say you're in sales and you want to make calls to grow your business. And it was when you listen to what other people's opinion of you are, we allow them to steal our dream. We steal our dream. So if you're making calls, right, let's just say you're making cold calls to get more business, to get it, whatever it is. And you're so worried about somebody saying no to you, and that kills your energy. And then, what will happen to most salespeople? They hear that no, or they get hung up on, and they're oh my gosh, like, this isn't for me. And that's it. I'm afraid to make calls. You're allowing somebody to steal your dream is what's happening, right? Because if you make enough calls, you will then close enough sales to make the money that will fund your life by design. If you're, by the way, in a business that will allow you to do that. If you're in a business that won't allow you to, make the money that can create your life by design, well, you need to rethink where you're at, right? And the funny thing is, in the harvest, we're getting a lot of people who are switching jobs. And it's because nobody ever challenged them to think, are you truly happy here, right? Can you fund the life by design that you truly want to live? And the answer is no. Well, one, find another thing that you can build, or guess what? You may have to make that tough decision and be in a thing where, hey, maybe you get a salary, but there's a cap to where the more business you do, the more money you can make. You can, you're off to the races. But that,
and then I've got a quick exercise, not to interrupt. I got a quick exercise for the salespeople who have a hard time picking up the phone and making those calls. And it's worked beautiful for me, and I've trained it for many, many years. Write 3 things down. Number 1, they looked at my information, right? So maybe send them a video, maybe send them a clip, right? We don't really mail stuff anymore, so it's usually something virtual. They looked at my information, they liked it, and they can't wait to hear from me. Now, if
say you or like when you post,
this is before you make a prospect, you call. Right. So let's say here's Jason right in the middle of my Brady Bunch box. Let's say I gave Jason some information. Now it's time to follow up and chat with Jason. Instead of going, oh, shit, Jason's going to want to hear from me. And look at he's probably having dinner right now. And this isn't a really good time. And what makes me think Jason would want to talk to me or whatever? Okay. Instead of that, I go, Jason looked at my info. He dug it. He can't wait to hear from me. This is a shift in mindset, and you will have way more fun. And to Devin's point, however long ago it was about our energy attracts, I mean, you cannot deny the law of attraction, right? I can give you 5 books on the law of attraction. I believe in the law of attraction the same way I believe in gravity and the world is round. Okay, so that's how strongly I believe in the law of attraction. So if you're going to make that call, and if you start going, oh, he's not going to want to hear from me, she's not going to want to hear from me, like you're almost begging it to happen. But if you say, hey, man, he looked at my information, he dug it, he can't wait to hear from me, it just shifts your energy. So at least you show up on the call. I can't control how he or she responds, but I can control the attitude, the posture, the energy, the courage I bring to my calls.
Love that. Guys, listen, man, you heard her say exactly who hires her to speak, and you guys have the opportunity to hear her speak in this community. So the one question I want you to ask yourself is, who do you know in your business and professional and personal circle that can value and that you think would enjoy hearing people like this? Like when you meet people at networking events, I don't know, family, whatever that is, this is what you have the opportunity to bring them into, right? And this is what we're doing. And I say this passionately because I know ain't nobody messing with what we're doing in the harvest. That's just a fact. Nobody around here is providing what we're providing in the harvest. And you should be proud to share this to other people in your business and in your personal communities, because this will help them. If somebody sat on this call right now, it could change somebody's life, right? So when we go through weeks and months of you not introducing anybody to this community, you're doing a disservice to everybody that you know, because this will come back to you. They will thank you for this. You will prosper from this. We always talk about contribution. And if you're not exercising it, you're probably not reaping the rewards that a lot of people are getting. But I listened to this call and I'm like, man, like everybody should be in here listening to this, because this is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of value. If you execute what she's telling you to do and make money using it, or being a better human being, or being a better father, being a better mother, being a better leader, right? This is very important. And you know, it's just every time I hear this, I'm like, man, this is crazy that everybody should be hearing this. Every local business professional should be in here hearing this. So this was awesome, Leslie. Again, I already had a high expectation from you with being recommended by Dave. He only recommends the top performers in the world. And it's awesome to be able to bring you in front of a community that I care so much about. And listen, guys, remember, follow Leslie on Instagram, on Facebook, share this call, right? All right, so Devin keeps talking about contributing to the harvest, adding people, sharing this. What's the easiest way to do it? 1, like the Facebook page and invite all your friends. That's one very easy way to do it. It's free. 2, when you're on these calls, share, tag Leslie. Say, Leslie, share what you learned on the call, right? And invite people to it. Like, these are very easy ways. Click, like, and share. You're already here. Go follow the page. If you're not following the Harvest Performance page, guys, click on that follow. All you got to do is go to invite all your friends. That's the easiest way to share with them how we can change their life, and you will benefit from this. And this is how we add value to Leslie for hopping on this call. And share her, follow her, share her messages, because it can help a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that need it in their business and in their life. So, Leslie, thank you so much. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Remember, find the money seed. What are you going to implement now based off of the 17,000 things that we talked about that all work? Leslie, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
It was an absolute pleasure. And I want to thank everyone who's taken time to put a nice note in the chat. And truly, if I can help you in any way, Leslie at lesliezann.com. I would be happy to be of service to you, your group, your company. I love what I do, and I love helping people reach their full potential. And however I can be of service, it would be a pleasure. Devin, I hope this is the first of many times bringing our energies together. It was an absolute pleasure.
I'll meet you on a stage someday. All right.
I would love it. Later. I would love it.
Thank you, Leslie. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you guys
Thanks,
for
Leslie.
making a commitment to attend. I appreciate it.
Terrific.
Thanks, guys.